Hi, today we're going to have a quick look at the Construction Design and Management Regulations 2015, often called the CDM regs. They were originally introduced in 2007, but in 2015 they took on a whole new turn and were completely rewritten and changed by the HSC. There is a comprehensive guide, an ACOP, called L153, called Managing Health and Safety in Construction. This little clip is just a quick overview. Other clips talk about the duties of the parties involved with any construction project. So this is a quick overview. Firstly, most importantly of all, what is covered? In the regulations, all construction work is covered, all building work is covered, all repair and maintenance works is covered, and preparation for construction works is all included within the regulations. So it is actually really wide-ranging. These regulations put duties on three principal people: the client, all designers, and all contractors. And the regulations have two specific angles to it. Firstly, if there is only one contractor, and then additional obligations and duties if there are two or more contractors. Within the project, these regulations require that the client provides what is called pre-construction information to anyone who's going to design or work on or be part of the building project, the construction project, or the repairs or maintenance project. There also has to be a construction phase plan, so that the contractor, rather than just turning up and cracking on with things, actually draws out a plan and sets out how the work will be done in a safe and managed manner. If there's more than one contractor, there will be a health and safety file. This isn't about risk assessments and method statements. This is about things to do with the building and the project when it's completed. So anyone in the future who's working on that building has essential health and safety information so they can work safely on that building. If the work includes a construction site, and there's a definition of that, then there are additional regulations in relation to that. Domestic clients are included for the first time, but there's no specific duties upon the domestic client. That is someone who's having work done on their own home in which they live. And there, in that situation, the contractor has the responsibilities that the client has, and it only applies to domestic works. The regulations have quite an emphasis on information, instruction, competencies, cooperation, and these things flow through the regulations. The client. The client within these regulations has duties and obligations. They cannot just simply contract out. And whilst there is another clip about specifically the duties of a client, in short, the client must appoint competent people. So rather than flicking through Yale.com and finding someone to do something, the client needs to satisfy themselves that the person that they're asking to do the work is competent. The client must appoint a competent designer or assume those duties themselves. If there's more than one contractor, then they have to appoint the designer in writing, and this position is called the principal designer. The client has to gather information that they have about the building, the structure, the environment, the circumstances, and pass that on to the designer or the principal designer, which then becomes a really important piece of information for the contractor. There's a fundamental principle within these regulations, and that is it must be proportionate to the risks and hazards that anyone working on the project encounters. It could be a relatively simple project, or it could be a multi-million pound project of great complexities. The regulations apply to both sorts of works. If there's more than one contractor, there has to be a principal designer appointed in writing, and there will have to be at the end of it a health and safety file which is handed to the client upon completion, containing vital information. You will find some guides and information about these duties and about these regulations, and if you have any involvement within construction works, I would recommend and encourage you to get hold of the guides. There's a general one about CDM, and it set out the main principles of the CDM regulations, and it briefly describes the role of the client, the obligations of the client, the obligations of all the designers, and the obligations of all the contractors. And on the website you also find sort of a flow chart of information for the client, and there's another one for the designer when there's one contractor, and similarly the obligations of the client when there's more than one contractor, and obligations of the designer when there's more than one contractor. And if you're a small builder or a bit bewildered by the whole thing, there's a brief leaflet you can print off, and it's double-sided, which sets out generally the obligations, responsibilities, and what the regulations are trying to do. I'll go into more details about the duties of the client, of all the designers and all the contractors in the next clip. Take care, cheers, bye.